Now today we're going to talk about 10 ways to make your home look more expensive. Now this doesn't mean that we're going to spend a lot of money, because if you guys know me, you know I don't spend a lot of money on my home. I mean, there's some pieces that I may spend a little bit more money on, but for the most part, I'm not buying high-end stuff. But I've come up with different ways that I can replicate the high-end look for less money. And to make your home look high-end, it's more than just understanding the idea that, you need to shop at the thrift store, you need to shop at less expensive stores. There's some design principles that I think really help if you have in the back of your mind when decorating your home or any space you're working on, that's really gonna help your home look more high-end. Okay, so let's get started. So the first tip I have for you is on lighting. You want to have great lighting in your home. Now you may be thinking, okay, but I like those really fun basket light fixtures that only take like one little bulb. Like, I know, me too. Those are not good lighting. So when you think about lighting, it's just not about one source of lighting. So let's take my living room, for instance. I think the best light that you can have is natural light. But you don't always have natural light. Sometimes it's rainy. I live in a wintry climate where a lot of days we don't get much light. In certain winter months, you need additional light. In a room like my living room, I will have light that's on the ceiling. So I have like a ceiling fan light because my family loves ceiling fans. We just can't get around it. And that has lighting in there. We also have 3 different lamps in the room. So we have a tall floor lamp, and we also have 2 lamps. This is going to provide additional lighting for us. The other trick that I like to use is actually a photography trick. With the light bulbs in my house, I like to use daylight bulbs, which are usually around 5,000 Kelvin, 5,000 K is what you'll see them as, or they'll call them daylight bulbs. Whenever you buy them, they'll say 5,000 K. But what that means is that the light is just going to be white versus having a yellow light. So light that's more around 2,000-3,000 K, that's going to be a yellow light. If you think about it, right now, the lights that are on me, all of my soft boxes and filming lights, they're all daylight bulbs, because that's what you do in photography. You try to simulate the look of daylight, and daylight that comes in on you, it's not yellow. It's nice and white and crisp. I like to have that look in my whole house. So in my daughter's bathroom, I used daylight bulbs, and it just gives that white, crisp look in there. I like it so much better. I mean, one, it's great for me for filming because you really can't film with yellow light, but it just simulates daylight, especially in rooms where you don't have window light. Having that natural light really helps. And it's not that expensive to change out your light bulbs. I don't have them all throughout my house, but as I'm going through and renovating each room, I've been switching out the bulbs to these type of bulbs. All right, so my tip number 2 is to use greenery throughout your house. You don't have to use real plants. I have real plants, I have faux plants. Either one would work. Not only do plants help to decorate a space, it really helps to give it more of a cozy feel, and I think it does make your space look more high-end. Now, some things to pay attention to when you're decorating with plants. You want to make sure that they're in good condition. If they're dying, you're probably going to have to get rid of them, because that's just not going to help to elevate your space. You want to also make sure that you're watering them and maintaining them, clipping off any dead pieces in your plant so that that's not on there. And then using nice pots. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can get a $1 pot at Dollar Tree, spray paint it and use it, and it can really elevate the look of a plant. I use them all over my house. I have them in my living room. I have them upstairs. I also like to buy faux plants that are larger. I think sometimes having real plants that are larger can be problematic. I have this faux plant that I bought. It's Studio McGee, and I have it in my bedroom next to this beautiful chair, and I think it's just a great look. I will try to link everything somehow. I don't know. We're doing this on Patreon, so it's totally new for me, but if I figure out a way to link, it may be in the comments, or if there's a description box, I'll try to link all these things that I'm telling you guys about. But I just think this plant makes that corner pop. It looks really high end, and it kind of just makes you feel like you want to, go over there and, snuggle up with it. If you can use plants, they're definitely going to help to kind of make your space more well-rounded. And be creative with your plants as well. Think about adding them to tables, adding them to shelves, and also using them as floor plants as well. Think about all the different levels that you can use your plants to really help to make visual interest in your space. My third tip is to use neutral colors. I think neutral colors get a bad rap sometimes because I think people say, well, I don't just want to use neutral colors. I don't want my house to be super boring. I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about how I think that you can add in color. Color is important and you want to have color in your life, but neutral colors just look more high end. They do. If you have your space in a white or like a really nice beige, that's going to look more high end than if the space was painted all one solid like jewel tone color. It just is. Sometimes you can use those darker colors sparingly, and I think that they work well. But if you're going to be painting, like a big space, like your kitchen that leads into your living room, kind of like I have, I would recommend something in the gray or beige tone. In my bedroom, I just went with a white. I'm kind of going more in the white direction. The color I have in my bedroom, it's called Swiss Coffee, and I use it at 75%, so it's not as yellow, but it just really lightens up the space, and honestly I think it looks a lot more high end. Another new trend that you may want to consider is people are switching from having white baseboards to getting like a colorful type of baseboard. So I did that in my master bedroom as well. I painted them with a color called Accessible Beige by Sherwin-Williams. Now it's not a super bold color. I've seen people who've done them in like greens and blues and they look really cool, but I just wanted it to be really subtle. I used that same color in my accent wall, and I just think it gives it a nice look. Now, is this a trend that I think is going to last for years to come? No. I think, maybe a couple of years people will do this little colored baseboard look, and then it'll probably go back to white. It may even go to like wood, who knows? But it's fun for now. It's a little trendy though. So if you're looking for something that's gonna have a little bit more life to it, I don't know if I would do the colored baseboards, but I like the look for now. I can easily paint them white if I want, especially since my walls are white. I thought it was a fun look. But again, all of these colors are very neutral. They're whites, they're creams, and they elevate my space because they are so neutral. All right, so tip 4 is about mirrors. Now, you've probably heard people recommend to use mirrors to make your space look more open, and I totally agree with that. I used a mirror in my daughter's closet because, first of all, I wanted it for her, just to have a full-length mirror, but I wanted the space to feel more expansive. I wanted it to feel like the closet was bigger than it was. So using mirrors definitely helps to do that. I also think they are great for decorative items. You don't always have to find a wall art or a picture frame to use. To me, decorative mirrors are very neutral. A lot of times I'll look at a space and I'm like, I don't want to add too much there. For me, sometimes a mirror is just the right touch because it's simple and it's neutral to me. In my living room, I added a really simple mirror here, and I love the way that it just kind of fills that corner and gives me that decorative look that I was going for, but it's not too much. It's not too overpowering. That's one of the reasons why I think mirrors really help to make your home look more expensive. Tip 5 is honestly something that I struggle with, you guys. As somebody who DIYs, as somebody who decorates, we think that, our houses have to be decorated. And we also have this idea that to make your home look cozy, you kind of have to like fill all the areas. And what I have found with homes that are more expensive is that if you go in them, especially if you think about like staged homes and different designer homes, a lot of the spaces are not filled. You have a lot of open spaces in these style of homes. In my bedroom, this was something that I really strive to do. Before my master bedroom felt very cluttered, I felt like I had a lot of furniture and I was like, I just felt boxed in. So I said, you know what? I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna keep it really simple. We're gonna have the bed, we're gonna have the nightstands, we're gonna have my comfy chair, and we may at some point put in a little console table, but right now we don't have a dresser in there because we didn't use that dresser because it's far away from our closet. So it didn't make sense for us to have a dresser in there. We have nothing underneath our TV right now. I also have a blank wall that's over by like where my nightstand is that I haven't put anything on that wall yet. And I'm like refraining from doing it. Like I keep on thinking I need something, but I really like the open space. So I'm really trying to train myself to do this open space concept, because when I see houses that have open spaces or landings where no one puts anything in there, it just looks more high end to me. So to say all this, I'm not perfect at this, but I want you to consider when you have an open area, maybe you don't need to fill it, or maybe you have too many pieces in your living room and you need to remove some of them. So look at what you have and think, okay, am I feeling like I have too much going on in this space? And maybe a blank wall is really going to help open it up and feel a lot less cluttered. So something that's been a big trend is doing a feature wall or gallery wall. I feel like there's a lot of different ways that you can go with this. You can do something as simple as buying a collection of prints and hanging them on the wall together. I did that in my front room where the kids have their piano. It's just a small room. We just have a couple of chairs in there, and I wanted it to have a feature wall because when you open my front door, this is the first room that you see. So I selected pictures that were in a very earth neutral type tone to incorporate into this wall. When I got all the pictures, I laid them out on the ground and figured out how I wanted to put them out before we went in and started, adding the nails to the wall. And that made it a lot easier to kind of get the look that I want. Now, there's more elaborate ways of doing a gallery wall. You could do something like I did in my master bedroom where I added molding to the back of my wall and I painted it an accent color. These take a little bit more skill because you're going to have to use a saw to cut the pieces, and then you're going to use your nail gun and caulking to kind of get this look together. But you could do something as simple as just painting an accent wall to kind of give you that look. And I love this little picture that I featured on my bedroom wall. I'll try to link it somehow if I can for you. In my daughter's room, I also did an accent wall. Now this one's a little bit more elaborate because we did a chevron pattern, and this one took us a little bit longer to do, and we painted it just that color. This kind of goes to my tip about adding color, but it's a great way to add in color but not go overboard. Her whole entire room is white, but this one wall is that pink accent color. So it gives us that pop of color, but it's not overwhelming. Sometimes when you have color on all of your walls, you can feel really boxed in, and it can make a space actually feel smaller. That doesn't scream high end to me whenever my space feels enclosed and smaller. I love the idea of an accent wall to really give you that pop that you're going for, but it's not overwhelming. My next tip is about paint, and I've talked about paint a lot, but it honestly, you guys, is the one way to really update your space for not that expensive. I mean, you could even buy a more expensive paint at Sherwin-Williams and not even spend $70 on a gallon of paint. For under $100, you can completely transform the look of your space with just paint. I mean, if all you did in your space was update the paint, you would have a whole new look to your house. I mean, paint makes a huge difference. In my master bedroom, it was gray. From gray to white is not a huge change, but it looks so different to me. Like, I love it. I feel like there's more light in the room because I'm really big on light. I love, window light and just having a lot of light. It's just something that's important to me. I feel in a better mood whenever I'm in a space that has a lot of great light. Just the white of it made such a big difference. But the paint cost just isn't a ton for what you get. Now, you do have that time that you have to take to paint it. I've never painted a room and thought, this just wasn't worth it. Like, it's always worth it to me. So I love the way this room turned out. Okay, so let's talk about if you're you're somebody who really likes color, some of my color recommendations that I have for you. One thing that I do in my house is I give myself a 2-color limit whenever I'm dealing with the open spaces of my house. What I mean by that is all neutrals are free. And what is a neutral to me? A neutral to me is white, tan, gray, black, and wood tones. Those are all considered neutrals. I don't ever consider those when I'm talking about my color palette. My color palette is the colors that I use to kind of dress up my home. And whenever I have an open space in my home, I like to stick with 2 accent colors. So in my home, those colors are green and blue. My entire downstairs is open concept. You know, you can walk from room to room to room to room and you see everything. Nothing is really closed off. So in those rooms, the only really pops of color you're going to see outside of my neutrals is blue and green. My dining room is navy blue. In my front room, I have a green dresser that's kind of my pop of color in this room. In my living room, my accents are a little bit less dramatic. I have more decorative pieces that are in the blue and green family. That's kind of similar to what I do in my kitchen. I like to keep my kitchen pretty crisp and white in there. What I find that is in homes that look more expensive, they have a very consistent color scheme throughout. The only difference here is rooms upstairs in my house that are closed door rooms. Those are different. Like I showed you guys my daughter's bedroom that has that accent wall to it. In that room, I'm not sticking to a particular color, you know, allowing pinks and different colors. My other daughter has a bedroom that has pinks and blacks and whites in it, and those are, you know, more fun colors. In my main open living space, I stick to that 2-color rule, and I really think that that helps to give us a high-end look. I hope you're still with me. I hope it doesn't seem like I'm rambling. I just want to give you guys all the information I have, so I hope that you find this helpful. So tip number 9 is using rugs in your space. And this is kind of a tricky thing because knowing how to use rugs correctly, I think, is probably the biggest thing. I know we've heard for years, like, don't get a rug that's too small, but that also goes the other way as well. You don't want to get a rug that's too big because it just seems awkward in your space. You really need to find a rug that fits your space correctly. What does that mean? What I like to do is I like to lay out my furniture first and measure before I order my rug. For example, in my master bedroom, I wanted a rug to go underneath my bed, but I didn't want it to cover up these beautiful hardwood floors that we had just spent, you know, almost a month putting in and, you know, we love. I wanted it to have a nice rug under the bed. So I determined that I wanted my rug to measure out about 18 inches on either side of my bed and also at the very end of my bed. Based on those measurements, I needed a 7 by 9 foot rug. This was so helpful for me when it actually came time to picking out my rug because I knew the exact size that I needed. If my rug didn't meet that size, I wasn't going to purchase it. I also have a rug in my living room, and the living room is very similar. You just want to make sure your rug in your living room is going to fit under all the corners of your furniture. Tip number 10 for making your home look more expensive is one that I constantly have to remind myself, and that is less is more. As people who like to DIY, as people who love to decorate, we are constantly bringing in new stuff to decorate with. Whenever I'm decorating a space, sometimes I'll want to add an additional thing, and I have to remind myself, no, this looks good with just the 3 items. You don't need to add a couple of more to round it out. I encourage you to take a step back from your spaces and look at it and say, is this looking too cluttered? Is there something I could remove from this to make it look better? That will really help you to have like a clear eye. Same thing with your furniture. Look at your furniture in the space. Say, is there something in here that's making this look too cluttered? Could I remove a piece of furniture that just doesn't need to be here? And sometimes it's hard whenever we've had the same furniture pieces forever. It's much easier if you walk in with a fresh eye, like you've never been in that space before, because when we are attached to our spaces, it's really hard to decorate. And I have that same thing when I'm going to decorate a new room in my house. I almost have to like clear the space out before I can envision what I want the new space to look like. Hey guys, I'm Liz and you're watching my second DIY channel where I post daily DIY videos. You may be familiar with my main channel, Liz Fenwick DIY, but I'm glad that you found me over here on my second channel. Make sure that you're subscribed so you just get notified every day when I post our daily DIY video.